Good afternoon, DGen Nation, and welcome again to another thrilling episode of Reactive Recaps. I am your humble host, as always, Rancid R2, and sitting beside me is my ever faithful co-host, Yellowbird himself from Trading from the High Discord. Happy New Year. How you doing, Bird?
Pretty good, brother. Pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Welcome to the second official week of trading. Unfortunately, I had to skip the majority of the first week of 2024 trading due to my family coming down with COVID-19. One of the benefits of having financial freedom is to not have to sweat it when these things happen, as I could just take a week off and tend to the family. Thankfully, everyone's on the mend, and I'm back to it with a eager determination.
Yeah, that freedom
Yeah.
is always nice, and I'm glad to hear everyone is doing better.
The only downside is this kid is the luckiest kid in the world and has got their Christmas vacation extended to a month. Stupid CDC guidelines.
Yeah. We just found out that our kids will be having tomorrow off because of weather here in our area.
Snow?
Tornadoes. Welcome to the South.
Wow. Okay. They preemptively cancel school for tornadoes.
Oh yeah. If it's a certain if the wind is so high or there's a certain level of rain coming in, they'll cancel it because we don't have
Wow.
snow days down here. So
That's true. Very interesting. Well, you know what else is interesting, folks, listening to my voice out there? The second week of January, which leads that this is CPI week on Thursday. Yay. That means for a very volatile day on Thursday. That also means it's a good opportunity to practice defense, practice sizing, not YOLOing. So be careful with that. But what we do in the show, like we do every time, is we look at the chart. We kind of try to point out things, candle patterns, strategies, trend lines, flags, whatever, to show you, to teach you. So when you're sitting at home in your parents' basement wondering what happened to your life, you can look for these things on the chart and find out, yeah, I can do this. It doesn't take a degree in finance or a PhD in mathematics to draw a line on a chart, manage appropriately, and exit appropriately, whether win or lose. Okay. I can only speak for myself when I'm never the smartest guy in the room. But what I can also tell you I'm never the dumbest either. So keep that in mind, guys. You're not as dumb as you think. You're not as hopeless as your P&L might say it is. All right. We take some practice trade. We look at some practice diagrams. We'll take some trades. You'll get there. It's a journey, not a sprint. Okay. So I'm going to pass it to Bird, who's going to do his opening, and then I'm going to speak to mine, and hopefully you'll understand what we're talking about.
yeah, all right. So my recap for today, I took two trades on the during regular trading hours today on MNQ. We had the open, which was very strong. We went up here, kind of did a flag into previous day high. I took the trade. I only entered in three contracts on MNQ, and immediately the next candle was cashed out with my profits of 30 points. We came up here and kind of consolidated around, moved back up, came back down. I noticed this trend line right here was forming. I went ahead and took a long. And I kind of anticipated it being a trend day, so I was buying. I was going to buy um, the pullback. It pulled into this trend line. I took the long here. It went 20 points and then came back down for break even. I had three contracts on, which is something that I've been doing since the new year. The end of the year kind of spooked me a little bit. I kept it small. was able to keep those days green because I kept it small, because the action wasn't the best for me. And I'm continuing to keep it small with that sizing so far this year. Build a good buffer on the personal account and everything like that, considering I reset everything January 1st. And I'm just going to focus on keeping it small, keeping it consistent, minimizing the number of trades I take. I do not want to be taking those 10 trade days that I did last year. I want to focus on a couple of one or two good setups, grab my couple of $100 for the day, and call it a day. That is what I'm focusing on for the year, and that is, or for the beginning part of the year, and that is what I did today. It was just real two easy setups, bread and butter setups, and took my profits and worked on things the rest of the day.
So, Bird, you touched on something that I think I wanted to kind of flush out for anyone that might be new. I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but today was a prototypical textbook trend day. And what a trend day basically means is the price action goes in one direction without any meaningful pullback at all. And if you look at the chart, you will see that's pretty much what happened all day. The trend line that Bird referred to, that you could have used that trend line all day and waited for things to come back to you or not. Now, Bird, you and I know a lot of professional traders who do this full time and who don't bat an eye at choppy conditions, whipsaw candles back and forth. But I find something that scares them a lot are trend days because they don't think it's going to continue, that there's going to be a rug pull, and they can never find that good entry that we're always preaching and look for. I'm always amazed by that. Being a little bit more polished than I am, could you maybe explain why professional traders don't like trend days like this?
Okay, so trend days. The thing that gets me about trend days, this is what I've struggled with personally the most on trend days, is I'm always trying to nail the top. All right. Now, we double topped here at 10:50 and 11:10 Eastern time. That would have been a possible short. But as you noticed here, every time we kind of double topped, we came down a little bit and then showed strength and gained again. We double topped here, gained strength. We chopped around, triple topped here, gained strength, and it just kept going and going and going up. And one thing I struggle with is I get it in my head, okay, we've got this move up. We opened up right here at around 510. Within the first hour, we have already moved 100 points. So how much further can this continue? At 1 o'clock, we're up here 200 points. Well, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this has got to come down. This has got to come down. We've got to rotate back down eventually at some point today. And so one trap that I fall into is I start looking for short entries, and I'm fighting the trend. And that usually catches me. A lot of times on these trend days is I'll end up trying to find the top and I'll get ran over every time. I've got a friend that I trade with, Chef. He always says, don't get caught on the tracks picking up pennies. You're sitting here trying to make 10 points, finding the top or whatever, and the train is just running you over. That's something that I struggle with. Something that other people struggle with on trend days is finding that place to go long. They'll sit here and let me see if I can find a good example of it. I don't see a good example of it on the chart. But what they'll do is they'll rush into a long. So they'll sit here, and the opening candle will be this strong candle. They'll get the FOMO, and they'll rush in, and they won't get a good entry, and they'll end up coming down and getting their stops hit or their stops ran on one of these pullbacks that we get throughout the day. When entering in on a trend day, you have to be patient. You have to look for these pullbacks, look for these trend lines within the day. You're not going to get a trend line that matches up from the open on these big pushes. Like here, this trend line that I'm showing right here, it breaks, but we continue up. You're not going to get those textbook trend lines from the low of the day. You've got to look for these smaller trend lines like this one here. You could draw a trend line. That one would not have worked. This trend line here would have worked. It mirrors the one that I use somewhat. This trend line right here would have worked. You've got to find those smaller trend lines within the day because in able to find your entries. So here we had this big move up. It came back down, retested, and then we had a big move up. It consolidated again. When we came into that trend line, you could have entered there and then the slow grind up here. That's how I like to manage and enter my trades on these bigger trend days, is to look for smaller trend lines that give you the opportunity. Because the move is so aggressive, your trend line is so steep that just because we break that trend line doesn't mean we're not going to continue up.
So just so everyone's listening, I think Bird brings up a couple of really good points in what he just said about why professional traders might not be interested in trend days like this. And one thing that I think is really important that I wanted to flesh out of this, and Bird, I hope you don't mind, is that he just admitted that he too himself is fallible. That he too, much like myself and much like everyone listening to me, has a bias in their head at times. That bias that we're telling you every day, don't go in with a bias, it is virtually mentally impossible to remove said bias from your brain entirely. It's almost impossible, guys. So what Bird was just saying essentially is that he had a bias saying that he's trying to catch a top, that it can't go any higher. Now, when I say this to Bird, and he's hearing me say this, then he's shaking his head thinking to himself, I know that it could always go higher. But when a move this aggressive happens, it gets so ingrained in people's brains that this is going to be a typical trading range day. And that's what most trading days are. That it goes up, it comes down. It goes up, it comes down. That's what normal trading days look like. It's not like a dead shot up the entire day like this. So what I really want you guys to understand from other gurus or other trading professionals that you're listening to that say that they've eliminated their bias and that their mental strength is so strong that they could never be influenced by bias, they're lying. Okay, the most professional traders in the world, the guys who do this day in day out, make millions of dollars a year, when a day like this happens, they get nervous too. My only advice to you people trading a trend day like this is to, like Bird said, wait for a pullback. I usually wait for a 2 to 3 bar pullback because that's typically how things do it on a 2 to 3 minute chart. Okay, and then there's no risk and there's no element of no risk in trading. Okay, I don't care how perfect the setup is; it could still go against you. So knowing that, I will wait for the 3 bar pullback and take the bottom of the pullback and hope for the best. Now, does that mean I throw caution to the wind and let myself lose a bunch of points? Absolutely not. I trade like I would trade anything else. If it goes behind my point threshold, I cut it, regardless if it's a trend day or not. So I just wanted to, use what Bird said as an example that if you'll never be able to fully eliminate the bias, But what what Bird was saying is that not only did he recognize that he has a bias, he has a plan to purposely put in place to minimize its effect on his trading plan, which is what we're really trying to get across. Okay.
Yeah, that's the key to being a successful trader is recognition. Being able to recognize within yourself, when you have a bias or when your emotions are out of control or when you're tilting or when you're just not seeing the market clearly, or being able to recognize when your system does not have an advantage in the market. It's recognition is just a really key fundamental to being successful because you have to not only do you have to see what's going on in the market, and be able to recognize these patterns, these trend lines, stuff like that. You have to recognize, is this a market condition that fits within my system? Am I going to be able to get a decent entry, a safe entry, a high probability entry? And am I able to do that and manage this trade without getting all out of whack? It's we all have our problems. We all have our biases. We have our emotional struggles that we have with trading. I mean, I still have some struggles. The other day, it was yesterday. I was in a trade, green. I had taken profit on the trade. I had one more price target and then a runner, and it got up to like 2 ticks of that last price target, and it started dropping, and then it came back up and got real close to it and dropped again and kept teasing, that last take profit. And I felt myself, even though I had already taken profit, my stops were 20 points in the green because I had a 30-point trail stop. I felt like I was still fighting the market for some reason. I felt like I was in a fight for my life to get that last take profit. And I took a step back. I recognized it and I was like, there's something wrong with me today. I am not emotionally, I'm not mentally right to be trading. So after my stop got hit, I just walked away because I knew that I just wasn't in the right frame of mind for some reason. I still haven't figured out why it made me that way. Maybe it was because I was just watching the trade because what
I
I
mean,
like.
sometimes the why doesn't matter. I mean, just knowing that you had to take a step back and walk away, even though you were green on the trade, uh, is a good thing. And being green on a trade doesn't mean that trade was successful. Being red on a trade doesn't mean that trade was bad. It's all about how well you managed the trade that you were in at the time. That should be the measure, not the P&L.
Yeah, how you manage the trade and how you manage your emotions. That is
100%, man. And it's funny, on Friday I had a little bit of a difficulty myself. I was messing around with one of these silly prop firms, and I had literally Bird. I started the day with like a 20-point NQ trade, which put me in like a 10-point grab to pass the eval, right? So the whole day, that my whole goal for the rest of the day was to pass that eval. That I didn't care anything else, nothing else mattered except passing that eval. I didn't pass that eval till 3:59 because I just kept effing around, taking stupid trades here, stupid trades there, left that and the other. I ended up losing 20 points and have to go 30 on the way back. It was mentally exhausting for pennies.
yeah, that is I've been there. I've done that. That's why with the prop firms, I have a point that I stop at if I'm green. If I'm green, you know, depending on the size of the account, let's say a 50K account. For a 50K account, if I'm green $200 to $300, I'm done with that account for the day. Now that's not a goal. I'm not trying to I don't want to sit there, and if I'm trading and I have $187, I'm not going to enter in a silly trade for that $13 to try and make it up. I'll take my $187 and walk away on that eval or when I'm building that buffer. But I like I I don't like to try and reach a goal amount. Like if I get a big move on an account and then I'm like, "Oh, wait, I'm a couple $100 or a couple points away from passing this thing." As soon as that thought enters my head, I switch accounts because I will end up with a day like that. Or even worse, completely blowing the account, which is what happens more times than not for me, is I'll get a red trade and then I'll be like, well, I need to make that up and then make the money to pass, and then I'll go in heavier or enter in a
Right.
silly trade, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yep. It's very it's funny. It's good that you brought this up because I want everyone to be aware that the prop firms are great. Okay. They're a very useful tool, but never forget that they're in a business to make money, and they will set up psychological rules and marketing schemes to make you play in a unhealthy, I'll say, way for you mentally.
Oh yeah, they've got rules in place to I mean they've already gamified it. It's already gamified, and they've got rules in place to try and get you to blow the accounts, because they'll sit there and they'll make, you know, you blow an account, that's another $75 they make on the reset, or however much you pay monthly for which size account or something like that. And that's how they make their money. I mean, there are people out there that will just gamble away and buy hundreds of accounts and not see any returns on any of it.
Yep, thinking that it's just the next time. This next over leveraged trade is going to be the one to do it. I'm just warning everybody. I'm not suggesting to not use the prop firms. They're a great tool for new traders and experienced traders as well. But don't be naive to what habits you may be picking up in trading these evals or PA funded accounts more recklessly than you would if it was your own money.
Yeah. I mean, trading a prop account is much like smoking some meat, low and slow.
Because those are the kind of habits that you want to build. So when you do get funded, that you don't even blink. You just continue on the path that you set yourself on, however many weeks it took you to pass the eval. Okay, passing an eval in one day proves nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. And once you get funded, I mean, making $200 a day, that's $1,000 a week roughly, and that's $52,000 a year of extra income. I mean, that is absolutely achievable to average $200 a day. And you're not going to make $200 every day, but I mean, if you're keeping your losses small and you make 250, 300, 200 on a couple of days, and then you lose 100 on a red day, I mean, you're still averaging around 200 and you're still making that money.
Marathon, guys, marathon. Okay. Don't $200 a day is like Bert said, that's another salary per year for you. Okay. And it's that's something you can do in your if you have to do it pre-market or post-market, like you could get that in the after hours or pre-market hours if that's something that you wanted to do. You just have to be very disciplined and stick to your plan, and you should be able to do it. And with that, guys, that's pretty much all I had to say to you. I know Bird's got a big plans for tonight to root on Washington State to destroy the Michigan Wolverines. I too will be joining in that bandwagon and saying go to hell with the entire state of Michigan.
On that subject, I think tonight is a meaningless bowl game. I honestly do.
No one's
Take
gonna watch it.
Well, no, people will watch it, but regardless of what the scoreboard says, in 2 to 3 years, when the NCAA investigation is over, Washington's going to be the national champion because they're probably, if the sign stealing scandal comes out and it's as bad as everyone suspects it's going to be, they'll probably vacate the national, Michigan's championship. It's my opinion on it. And that's,
It would it would explain why Harbaugh is making a seemingly quick exit to the NFL. You see all the reports in the papers.
yeah. And the one thing I did take personally over the Michigan team is how they're sitting there saying, "Oh, we've dealt with all this adversity. It's Michigan versus the world, Michigan versus everybody. We're America's team because we've got all this adversity and we're still winning." Your adversity is you got caught cheating, bro.
Exactly.
Like,
Houston did the same thing.
yeah. Hey, congratulations on acquiring Seth MacFarland from us, the center.
Yep, I saw it.
Hopefully, he doesn't get the yips for you like he got for us. Which
I'm working. I'm
he,
worried about the quarterback.
yeah. You got the running back from Ole Miss, Judkins, also. So,
We need a quarterback and a new wide receiver to cover Harrison Jr.
yeah.
That guy's an animal.
Yes.
Well, Bert, I wish you the best night tonight. I'll be watching it in spirit. To all you idiots listening to my voice out there, I hope you keep it small, trade smart, trade safe. Draw crayons. Don't rush into anything. Let's ease into 2024 nicely, and let's make it a profitable year, everybody.
Yeah, let's do that. Remember to plan your trades, trade your plans, and preserve that mental capital because it is more important than the monetary capital. Y'all have a good one.
Later, guys.